Dr. Jeanne Marrazzo. I am the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and I am really honored to be able to offer some welcoming remarks as you get together for this webinar on the development of new therapies for chronic hepatitis B. I'm really sorry I can't be there in person. I'll be out of the country at the time that you're getting together, but I did want to take the opportunity to say a few words in addition to welcoming you. Hepatitis is an area that I've been very interested in for a long time as an infectious disease physician. And I do not need to remind this group that while we've had many advances in the field, we are still not in a place to claim success when it comes to hepatitis, viral hepatitis in particular. The WHO report, which just came out this year and focused on data from 2022, critically, I think, pointed out how far we still have to go. We still had 1.2 million new hepatitis B infections, most of those occurring in the African region and almost a quarter in Southeast Asia. We still have over 250 million people living with hepatitis B, and half of them are among people 30 to 54 years old. So people who have a lot of life ahead of them and whose lives we'd really like to optimize with good management. And unfortunately, 12% are in children who've acquired the infection maternally or perinatally, and who unfortunately have not had the benefit of vaccination. There's also a big problem with underdiagnosis. 13% of people living with chronic hepatitis B are diagnosed, and only 3% have received antiviral therapy. And this really sets the background for the really unfortunate estimate of over 1 million deaths from hepatitis B virus infection. And that number is not going in the right direction. It's actually increased from 2019. The report also has some very nice data to emphasize what the global burden distribution is of this infection, and I will just point it out to you here. I think a couple of things. Number one, it's everywhere. There is no region of the globe that is spared. And number two, some of the numbers are quite staggering when you look, as I mentioned before, at the 60% plus that are in the African region in blue, and the number in Southeast Asia. So very, very, very large numbers of prevalent cases for us to deal with. When you look at this going forward from the data that we had for 2022, if we do not treat people, we do not get this under control, these numbers, of course, are going to continue to rise. And you can see on this graph, the report has broken out the total number diagnosed in the bottom green, total number eligible for treatment in blue, and the total number treated in pale green. So quite a lot of work to do to try to maintain some sort of control over this. So the report did provide, I think, some very helpful guidance around strategic directions. And I just want to point this one out because this is going to be very relevant, I think, to what you'll be talking about, which is around innovation in advancing the research agenda for viral hepatitis to improve diagnostics and work toward a hepatitis B cure. The research priorities for this response include an improved capacity for in vitro diagnostic medical devices and testing approaches for simplified, timely, and accurate diagnosis of chronic hepatitis B, development of long-acting therapy, formulations for children, given the burden that I mentioned before that are in the pediatric sector, and of course, hepatitis B cure research, going to be very important looking at this over time. So how are we thinking about this? We last updated our strategic plan at NIAID in 2022 for Cure Hepatitis B initiative. And this is thanks to our strategic plan working group. I want to thank them for doing this. There were really three components to this: creating strategies to cure and prevent, understanding the biology of this virus, and then developing tools and resources to make sure that we can affect implementation depending on what we find. So I'll just mention a few initiatives that have come on the heels of this strategic report. In 2019, we had a small business initiative, contract supporting antiviral drugs to cure chronic hepatitis B infection. 2022, an RFA announcing funding for therapeutics for eliminating hepatitis B virus, cccDNA. Talk about that in a minute. 2023, animal models for hepatitis B and C. And then most recently this year, an RFA for multidisciplinary research to accelerate hepatitis B cure in persons living with HIV. So just a reminder of the complex life cycle of the hepatitis B virus as shown there. And it does offer a number of targets, but unfortunately, we have not found the relative magic bullet that we have for hepatitis C. So there are a number of strategies out there in our portfolio that comprise antivirals that we hope can cure chronic hepatitis B infection. Those include development of an RIGI agonist, RNA, preclinical development of HBV capsid assembly modulators, reactive CAMs, which are called RCAMs, a new class of antivirals that target the capsid protein, liver-targeted dihydroquinolonazole molecules, optimization of hepatitis B ribonuclease H inhibitors, and development of star editors using CRISPR technology. So we're moving in some very exciting directions, obviously not quickly enough, hopefully soon enough to make a dent in those projections that I showed you before, but I think a much more robust portfolio than we have had in the last several years. I want to just mention very quickly the portfolio that is specific to therapeutics for eliminating covalently closed circular DNA, or cccDNA. Some of those strategies are listed here, and again, taking a look at a graphic of what that cccDNA looks like. Some of these strategies include high throughput screening, preclinical development of potential inhibitors, chemically ligated guide RNA, or LG, RNA-based CRISPR, mentioned that before, peptide nucleic acids that can target this covalently closed circular DNA, perhaps IL-1 beta as a novel agent, and then engineering exosomes for new guide RNA and Cas enzymes. So some exciting areas, lots of promise, but also lots of work to do. Couple of points about the current clinical trial landscape that we are involved with around hepatitis B. You know, I'm sure are aware of our DMID-sponsored clinical trial that is a U01, a first in human phase 1 hepatitis B monoclonal antibody 19 in individuals with chronic HBV infection. This is looking at a potent neutralizing antibody that is directed against the hepatitis B S protein. The goal here is to look at safety, tolerability, and pharmacokinetics of this antibody, and to assess the effects on serum hepatitis B surface antigen levels. We are hoping that this will be therapeutic for people living with chronic HBV, and we are actively enrolling in this trial. The AIDS Clinical Trials Group, 5423, is also conducting a phase 2 trial looking at the efficacy of dual combination VIR 2218 and VIR 3434 in people living with chronic HBV with or without HIV who do not have cirrhosis. Obviously, when you move into the cirrhotic phase, you're dealing with a somewhat different situation in many respects. The idea here is a small phase 2 trial to look at the proportion of study volunteers who have a substantial decline defined there in quantitative hepatitis B surface antigen after combination treatment with these two agents at week 24. And these, one is a monoclonal antibody, One is an siRNA targeting the HBV X gene. Target population will be 30. This is in development, but again, I think moving some of these exciting novel agents into people and looking at biomarkers of response is going to really be a very exciting phase. So I'll stop there. A lot more to talk about. I'm sure that you'll have a great meeting. Lots of good discussions. Again, I'm sorry I can't be there, but wish you the best. And please keep up the really critical work you're doing in the field of viral hepatitis. Thanks.